Jake Morrison walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The room was huge, with walls that stretched up so high he could barely see the ceiling. 12 different alien species sat in a circle around him, each one looking down from their elevated seats like judges ready to pass sentence. The human ambassador straightened his tie and took his place at the small table in the center. He had been to this chamber many times before, but today felt different. Today felt final council speaker Vexthera rose from her crystal throne. She was tall and thin, made of what looked like living glass that caught the light and threw it back in sharp angles. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Ambassador Morrison," she began, "humanity stands accused once again of violations against galactic peace and order." Jake said nothing. He had heard this speech. "Before your species continues to expand without permission," Vexthera continued, "you build colonies and sectors that rightfully belong to older, wiser civilizations. You develop weapons of war when the galaxy seeks peace. You refuse to share your technology with species who have earned the right to it through centuries of service to the Council." The Zephyrian delegate leaned forward in his seat, snake-like body coiled around his chair as he hissed his words. "Humans are dangerous. They breed too fast. They ask too many questions. They do not know their place." "Agreed," clicked the Altarian representative. Her insect-like features twitched with annoyance. "In just 200 years, they have spread 250 worlds. Other species took thousands of years to achieve such expansion. It is unnatural." Jake listened to each complaint. He had heard them all before, many times. The other species feared humanity's growth. They feared human creativity. Most of all, they feared that humans might one day challenge the old order that had kept the same species in power for millennia. "Your energy shield technology," Vexthera said, "must be shared with the Council immediately. No single species should possess such powerful defensive capabilities. Our medical advances," added the Drakmari governor, "belong to all civilized beings. You cannot hoard cures for diseases that affect multiple species. Your faster-than-light communication system," the Morgellian scientist chimed in, "disrupts the established networks we have used for centuries. It must be regulated." Jake stood up slowly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human who had sat quietly through their accusations. "I have listened to your concerns," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I have brought them to my government. I have tried to find compromises that would satisfy both human interests and council demands." He paused, looking around the room at the faces of beings who had never truly accepted humanity as equals. "But I see now that no compromise will ever be enough. You do not want humans to follow your rules. You want humans to disappear." "That is not true," Vexthera protested, but her crystalline voice cracked slightly. "Is it not?" Jake asked. "We demand we stop expanding, even though we follow all colonization laws. You demand we stop developing technology, even though we share more discoveries than any other species. You demand we limit our population, even though our birth rates are lower than 6 other council species." The chamber erupted in angry voices, clicking, hissing, roaring. An electronic buzzing filled the air as the alien delegates protested his words. Jake raised his hand for silence. Surprisingly, the noise died down. 200 years ago, when humans first reached the stars, we were grateful to find this community of civilized species. We hope to learn from you. We hope to contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." He walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with each delegate. "Instead, we found fear. Fear of our ideas, fear of our growth, fear of change itself. You have spent 2 centuries trying to fit humanity into a box that was built long before we arrived." "Humans are young," the Zephyrian delegate hissed. "Young species must learn patience, must learn to follow." "Follow whom?" Jake asked.
"Oh."
"Follow the same species that have controlled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Follow the same policies that have kept entire civilizations as junior partners for millennia. Follow the same thinking that has prevented real progress for centuries." Vexthera's form flickered with anger. "You speak of progress, but you bring only chaos. Your species questions everything. You change things that have worked for ages. You do not respect tradition. We respect what works, Jake replied. We question what does not. We change what can be improved. That is not chaos. That is growth. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sealed document. The chamber fell silent as he placed it on the table. President Lisa Carter has authorized me to deliver this message to the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Humanity withdraws from the Council and all its subsidiary organizations. The silence that followed was deafening. No species had ever voluntarily left the Council. The very idea was unthinkable. You cannot do this, Vexthera said, her voice now shaking with shock. The Council is the foundation of galactic civilization. Without it, there is only chaos. The Council has been the foundation of galactic stagnation, Jake corrected. Humanity chooses to forge its own path. You will trade with no one, the Altarian representative clicked frantically. No species will deal with outcasts. Individual. Species are free to trade with humanity if they choose, Jake said. We will not prevent anyone from making their own decisions. We simply will not participate in this body's political games any longer. He picked up the document and walked toward the door. We will regret this decision, Vexthera called after him. Without the Council's protection, humanity will face threats you cannot imagine. You will come crawling back, begging for readmission. Jake paused at the doorway and turned back one last time. Perhaps, he said. Or perhaps you will discover that the galaxy needs humanity more than humanity needs the Council. Massive. Doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. In the chamber, 12 species sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council faced a future without one of its members. They had no idea how much their universe was about to change. 6 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. The galaxy was beginning to notice that something was wrong. But most beings did not understand what they were seeing. Captain Roy Bennett stood on the bridge of the transport ship Liberty, watching the last group of human families board the vessel. Below them, the space station New Horizon buzzed with activity as humans packed their belongings and prepared to leave the world they had called home for 30 years. That's the last shuttle, Captain, his first officer reported. All humans are aboard. We're ready to depart. Roy nodded but did not give the order immediately. He looked out at the mixed alien and human city they were leaving behind. The Altarian shop owners stood in their doorways watching the evacuation with confusion. The Zephyrian security forces seemed nervous, unsure of what this mass departure meant for station security. Take us home, Roy finally said. The Liberty joined a convoy of 50 other ships, all heading back toward Earth. It was the same scene playing out across hundreds of worlds. Humans were leaving quietly and efficiently, taking their knowledge and skills with them. Dr. Helen Wu sat in her laboratory on Kepler Station for the last time. Around her, 20 years of research lay packed in storage containers. She had been working with Altarian scientists to develop new medicines that could help both species. The work was nearly complete, but now it would never be finished. Dr. Wu, her Altarian colleague Dr. Kethva, clicked sadly. Surely you do not have to leave. Your work here is too important. Helen looked at her friend and research partner. They had made real breakthroughs together, discoveries that could save millions of lives across the galaxy. But her orders were clear. All humans were to return to Earth space. I'm sorry, Kethva, she said. Wish things could be different. But my government has made its decision. What will happen to our research? The alien scientist asked. I do not understand your human computer systems. I cannot operate your medical equipment. Helen had been dreading this question. Without human technicians to maintain the complex systems, most of their work would be lost. The Altarians were excellent doctors, but they had become dependent on human technology and expertise. I've left detailed instruction manuals, she said, though they both knew it would not be enough. Perhaps your people can figure it out. But as Helen looked around the laboratory, she knew the truth. The delicate balance of equipment, the precise calibrations, the daily maintenance routines that kept everything working smoothly. All of that knowledge was walking out the door with her. Admiral Pete Collins coordinated the military withdrawal from his command, Ship Defiance. Human security forces had been stationed on 67 different worlds, providing peacekeeping and defense services to dozens of species. Now, they were all coming home. Sir, his aide commander Lisa Park reported, the evacuation of Firebase Omega is complete. That's the last military installation. All human forces are now withdrawn from Council space. Pete studied the tactical display showing the locations of former human bases. Red X marks covered the screen where human forces had once stood guard. Each X represented a gap in galactic security that no other species seemed capable of filling. What about our joint operations with the Drakamari fleet? He asked. Terminated as of this morning, sir. The Drakamari commander seemed ... upset. They were relying heavily on our tactical analysis and communication systems. Pete was not surprised. Human officers had become the backbone of many interspecies military operations. They had a talent for coordination and logistics that other species found difficult to match. Without them, many defense agreements would collapse. On the industrial world of Titan Prime, engineer Carl Thompson watched the massive fusion reactors begin their shutdown sequence. These reactors had powered the manufacturing plants that supplied 12 different star systems with essential goods. Now they were going dark. Thompson called the Zephyrian plant manager. You cannot leave now. The harvest season begins in 2 months. We need these reactors at full power to process the food shipments. Carl looked at the alien supervisor who had never bothered to learn how the reactors actually worked. For 15 years, humans had maintained these complex systems, while the aliens simply assumed they would always function perfectly. I've trained your engineering staff, Carl said. They should be able to handle basic operations. Basic operations? The Zephyrian hissed. What about efficiency improvements? What about the new safety protocols you were developing? What about repairs when something breaks? Carl had no answer. The truth was that the alien engineers were competent but not innovative. They could follow procedures, but could not adapt when problems arose. Without human oversight, plants would run less efficiently and break down more often. Economic analyst Nina Ross sat in her office on the trade hub of Commerce Station, watching cargo ships arrive and depart. But something was wrong with the usual rhythm of interstellar commerce. Ships were arriving late, cargo manifests were confused, and several trade routes had stopped functioning entirely. Nina, her assistant Ben Carter, said, entering with a stack of reports, the shipping companies are starting to panic. The Zarian-Altier route has been completely disrupted. No one seems to know how to coordinate the cargo transfers without the human logistics teams. Nina nodded grimly. She had predicted this would happen. Humans had become the galaxy's transportation experts, managing the complex networks that moved goods between hundreds of worlds. They had developed efficient routing systems, standardized procedures, and communication protocols that kept everything running smoothly. What about the automated systems? She asked. Breaking down faster than anyone expected, Ben replied. Turns out the aliens never learned how to maintain them properly. They were depending on human technicians for all the repairs and upgrades. Nina packed the last of her files into a shipping container. Soon she would be on a ship back to Earth, taking with her 15 years of experience in galactic trade management. Across the galaxy, thousands of other human experts were doing the same thing. The withdrawal was not dramatic or violent. There were no battles, no angry confrontations, no last-minute negotiations. Humans simply packed their belongings, said goodbye to their alien friends and colleagues, and left. But as the months passed, the absence of human expertise began to show. Medical equipment stopped working properly. Security systems failed during critical moments. Trade routes became confused and inefficient. Manufacturing plants ran at reduced capacity. Most aliens did not yet understand what was happening. They saw these problems as temporary inconveniences, small difficulties that would be solved once they adjusted to the new situation. They had no idea that their entire civilization had become dependent on human knowledge and skills. The quiet exodus was not just the departure of a workforce, it was the removal of the foundation that had been holding their galaxy together. On Earth, President Lisa Carter watched the returning ships arrive in orbit. millions of humans were. Coming home, bringing with them decades of experience and expertise, she knew that the real test was just beginning. The galaxy would soon discover what it had lost. Humanity would learn what it could accomplish when freed from outside restrictions. The quiet time was ending. Soon the galaxy would be forced to confront the consequences of driving humanity away. 1 year after humanity left the Galactic Council, the first real crisis hit. The Morgothan Imperium launched surprise attacks on 3 Council worlds in a single day. Their black ships appeared without warning, striking fast and hard before disappearing into Deep Space Council. Speaker Vexthera stood before the emergency assembly, her crystalline form flickering with stress patterns. The attack had killed thousands and left entire cities in ruins. In the past, human rapid response fleets would have arrived within hours to contain the threat. "We must respond immediately," she announced to the gathered delegates. The Morgothan cannot be allowed to think the Council is weak. The Zephyrian military commander slithered forward. "My fleets are ready to strike back. Give me the coordinates and we will make them pay." "Wait," clicked the Altarian defense minister. "We need proper intelligence first. We cannot just attack blindly." "Intelligence," hissed the Zephyrian. "Attacked us. We attacked them back." Simple. But it was not simple. Without human coordination, the Council's response was chaos. The Zephyrian fleet jumped to the wrong star system, following outdated navigation data. The Altarian forces refused to work with their traditional Drakmari enemies, even though both species were now on the same side. Critical intelligence reports were delayed or lost in translation between different alien communication systems. When the Council forces finally reached the correct battle zone, the Morgothan ships were long gone. Worse, the confused response had left 2 more worlds undefended. The Morgothan struck again, conquering both planets before any help could arrive. On the industrial world of Gamma Centauri, engineer Carl Thompson had been right to worry. The massive fusion reactors that powered the planet's manufacturing were failing one by one. Without human maintenance crews who understood the complex systems, the alien workers could not keep the machinery running. Plant manager Vethkar watched helplessly as another reactor went offline. The Zephyrian had been in charge of the facility for 5 years, but he had always depended on human technicians to handle the difficult technical work. "Can we restart it?" he asked his alien engineering team. The Drakmari head engineer shook his massive head. "The control systems are too complex. We have tried following the instruction manuals the humans left, but something always goes wrong. We fix one problem, and 3 new ones appear." Vethkar slithered through the facility, looking at the silent machines that had once produced goods for 12 star systems. Half the reactors were now shut down. Production had dropped by 70%. Entire planets were running short of essential supplies. "What about hiring new engineers from other species?" he suggested. "We tried," the Drakmari replied. "But no one else understands human technology either. The humans built these systems using principles that other species never developed. Without them, we are just guessing." Dr. Amanda Foster was one of the last human researchers still in Council space. Finishing up critical medical work on Rigel 4, she had been granted special permission to complete her plague research, but now she was witnessing the consequences of the human withdrawal. Firsthand, the medical facility where she worked was falling apart. Human-designed diagnostic equipment was breaking down without proper maintenance. The automated medicine production systems had stopped working completely. Worst of all, a new outbreak of Rigel fever was spreading through the population, and without human nanobots to contain it, thousands were dying. "Dr. Foster," pleaded her Altarian colleague Dr. Nixdal, "you must help us. The plague is spreading faster than we can treat it. Our medicines are not working." Amanda looked at the overcrowded medical wards. In the past, human nanobots would have stopped this outbreak in days. Tiny machines could target specific disease organisms with precision that alien medicine could not match. "I'm sorry," she said. "My evacuation orders came through this morning. The last human transport leaves in 6 hours. "But people are dying," Dr. Nixdal clicked desperately. Surely your government would allow you to stay for a few more weeks. Amanda shook her head. The decision has been made. All humans must return to Earth space immediately. No exceptions. As she packed her research notes, Amanda knew that thousands more would die after she left. The Altarian doctors were skilled, but they could not replicate the advanced treatments that human technology made possible. The economic collapse was spreading even faster than anyone had predicted. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades were breaking down completely. On the commercial hub of Nexus Prime, chaos ruled the shipping terminals. Director Ulthex of the Drakamari Trade Authority stared at his control screens in confusion. Cargo ships were arriving at the wrong times, carrying the wrong goods, or not arriving at all. The complex logistics network that had kept galactic commerce running was falling apart. Where are the grain shipments from Zarian? He demanded. Lost somewhere in the Altair sector, his assistant replied. The shipping company says their navigation systems are malfunctioning. What about the medical supplies for the Rigel crisis, sitting in a warehouse on Kepler Station? No one knows how to process the customs documentation without the human trade specialists. Ulthex had never realized how much the galaxy depended on human expertise. Humans had managed the transportation networks, handled the complex paperwork, and solved the thousand small problems that kept goods moving between the stars. On the desert world of Zarian, the situation was even worse. Governor Talmesh watched his planet's economy collapse as the human-designed terraforming systems began to fail. The machines that had transformed Zarian into the breadbasket of 12 systems were shutting down without proper maintenance. Oh. Long before the crops start dying? Asked his agricultural advisor. The atmospheric processors are already failing, the advisor reported. Without them to regulate temperature and humidity, we have maybe 2 months before harvest is impossible. Mesh looked out at the vast fields of grain that fed millions of beings across the sector. Human agricultural specialists had designed every aspect of Zarian's farming systems, from the soil treatment to the weather control networks. Without them, the desert would reclaim the planet within a year. Can we contact Earth directly? Asked, perhaps we can negotiate some kind of assistance agreement outside the Council framework. His advisor shook his head. Earth is not accepting any diplomatic contact from Council worlds. They say all communication must go through official Council channels. But the Council was too proud to admit they needed help. Even as crisis after crisis struck across their territory, the alien leaders insisted that they could handle the problems themselves. They blamed the Morgothan attacks, equipment failures, and economic disruptions on everything except the obvious cause. In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, Speaker Vexthera addressed the emergency session. These difficulties are temporary, she announced. We have faced challenges before. We will adapt and overcome. But privately, she was beginning to understand the truth. The galaxy had become dependent on human innovation, human expertise, and human problem-solving abilities. Without them, civilization that had lasted for thousands of years was starting to crumble. The Morgothan Imperium was growing bolder, launching new attacks every few weeks. Economic systems were collapsing across dozens of worlds. Crises were erupting faster than they could be contained. Manufacturing capacity was dropping throughout Council space. For the first time in her long life, Vexthera began to wonder if the Council had made a terrible mistake. Perhaps humanity's withdrawal was not a temporary inconvenience. Perhaps it was the beginning of the end for galactic civilization as they knew it. But her pride would not let her admit it. Not yet. The Council would find another way forward, she told herself. They had to. 2 years after humanity's withdrawal, the Galactic Council was dying. The Morgothan Imperium had conquered 12 worlds, internal wars had broken out between member species, and half the galaxy's economy had collapsed. Council Speaker Vexthera finally had to face the truth that she had been avoiding. They needed humanity back. Standing in her private chamber, Vexthera composed the most difficult message of her long career. Every word felt like swallowing poison, but there was no choice left. The Council was weeks away from complete collapse. Ambassador Kretel, she called to her most trusted diplomat. You will carry a message to Earth. Tell them, The Council requests their assistance with the current crisis. Kretel's insect-like features twitched with surprise. A request, Speaker? Not a demand? A request, Vexthera confirmed, her crystalline voice barely above a whisper. We are in no position to demand anything. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. When Kretel's ship finally reached the Sol system, he was shocked by what he saw. Human space was bustling with activity. New ships, new stations, new colonies under construction everywhere. In just 2 years, humanity had built more than they had in the previous 2 decades. President Lisa Carter met with the alien ambassador. In the rebuilt Lincoln Memorial on Earth, the symbolic location was not lost on either of them. This was where humans had once spoken of freedom and equality. Now, it was where they would decide the fate of the galaxy. Ambassador Kretel, President Carter said, gesturing to a chair. It has been a long time since we received a council. Diplomat. Kretel settled into the specially designed seat, his forearms folding nervously. President Carter, I bring greetings from Speaker Vexthera and the Galactic Council. We hope that past disagreements can be set aside in the face of current challenges? What challenges would those be? Carter asked, though they both knew she was fully aware of the Council's problems. The Morgathon attacks have escalated beyond our ability to contain them, Kretel admitted. Our defense forces lack the coordination that human tactical expertise once provided. We've lost 12 worlds and expect to lose more. Secretary of Defense Ryan Murphy stepped forward. Our intelligence suggests the Morgothan have captured some abandoned human technology. Is that correct? Kretel's antennae drooped with shame. Yes, when your people evacuated so quickly, some equipment was left behind. Morgothan have reverse-engineered your shield generators and energy weapons. They are now using human technology against us. Carter exchanged glances with her cabinet members. This was worse than they had thought. The Morgothan were not just conquering Council worlds, they were doing it with human-designed weapons. What exactly is the Council offering in exchange for our help? Carter asked. Trade concessions? Kretel said hopefully. Exclusive access to rare minerals from the outer systems? Technology sharing agreements? Cultural exchange programs? Elizabeth Barnes, Earth's leading strategic analyst, leaned forward. And our political status within the Council? Kretel hesitated. That would need to be discussed by the full Council Assembly. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Council was asking for help but was not willing to treat humanity as equals. They wanted to return to the old arrangement where humans did the work while aliens made the decisions. I'm afraid that won't be acceptable, President Carter said. Firmly, humanity left the Council because we were treated as second-class citizens. We won't return to that relationship. Over the next several days, Earth's leaders debated their response. The Morgothan threat was real and growing. Reports showed that the aggressive species was planning to expand beyond Council space. Eventually, they would threaten human worlds as well. Admiral Patricia Lewis presented her analysis to the cabinet. The Morgothan have captured enough human technology to pose a real threat to us. Their fleet is growing stronger every month. If we don't act soon, we might face a much larger war later. General Frank Rodriguez agreed. But we can't just go back to the old system. If we're going to help, it has to be on our terms. President Carter made her decision. We'll offer limited assistance, humanitarian aid only. We'll help evacuate civilians from threatened worlds, but we won't fight the Council's battles for them. The first human ships to enter Council space in 2 years caused a sensation. Captain Steve Wilson commanded a fleet of 12 vessels, all displaying new technology that made them faster and more powerful than anything seen before. The sleek ships moved with precision that reminded everyone why humans had been so valuable. But the real surprise came when the human fleet reached the Morgothan battle zone. The attacking ships broke off their assault and retreated immediately. They had faced human forces before and knew they were outmatched. "This is Captain Wilson to all Morgothan vessels." Steve broadcast on all frequencies. "We are here on a humanitarian mission. We will not attack you if you do not interfere with our rescue operations." The Morgothan commander responded with confusion. "Human ships, why do you protect Council worlds? Did they not cast you out?" "We protect innocent civilians," Wilson replied. "Nothing more." The rescue operation was flawless. In just 3 weeks, human ships evacuated over 2 million people from Morgothan-occupied worlds. They used new transportation technology that could move entire populations in hours rather than days. The efficiency was breathtaking, but the military intervention revealed something that shocked both the Council and the Morgothan. Human technology had advanced dramatically during their 2 years of isolation. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their defenses stronger than ever before. Dr. Susan Walsh led a team of scientists who had developed breakthrough technologies during humanity's withdrawal, free from Council restrictions. Human researchers had made discoveries that seemed impossible just years earlier. "We've achieved faster-than-light travel without jump gates," she explained to President Carter. "Our new fusion reactors produce 10 times more energy than the old designs. We've created self-repairing materials that can fix themselves automatically." The implications were staggering. Not only had the Council lost access to existing human technology, but humanity had used their freedom to leap far ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ambassador Kretel watched the human evacuation operations with growing despair. His people needed this level of capability, but it was clear that humanity was now far beyond anything the Council could offer in return. When he requested a second meeting with President Carter, her terms were simple and non-negotiable. "Humanity will establish humanitarian zones around threatened worlds," she announced. "Any species that requests our protection will receive it. We will not rejoin the Council, but we will work with individual worlds that want our help." "But what about the Council's authority?" Kretel asked desperately. "The Council's authority ends where human protection begins," Carter replied. "Any world that chooses human protection will be outside Council jurisdiction." Within days, 17 different species had requested direct human assistance. They bypassed the Council entirely, negotiating separate agreements with Earth. The old galactic order was crumbling, placed by a new system where human capability was respected rather than feared. As Kretel prepared to return to Nexus Prime, with humanity's response, he knew that everything had changed. The Council could no longer control or contain human development. Humanity had become the dominant power in the galaxy, and they had done it by simply walking away and letting their former oppressors destroy themselves. The galaxy had a new order, and humans were no longer asking for permission to lead it. The human rescue operations changed everything. Within 6 months, the galaxy had learned to fear and respect humanity in equal measure. What the aliens saw was not the same species that had left the Council 2 years earlier. These humans were stronger, smarter, and completely beyond Council control. General Frank Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the battleship Endeavour, watching Morgothan ships flee from human space. The aggressive species had tried to test human defenses once, and the result had been devastating for them. Advanced human weapons had destroyed 3 Morgothan cruisers in minutes without taking any damage in return. "General," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining Morgothan fleet. They're asking for terms." Frank allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them to withdraw to their home system and stay there. Any Morgothan ship found outside their territory will be destroyed without warning." Oh. The Morgothan had learned the same lesson that the Council was slowly understanding. Humanity was no longer a junior partner to be managed. They were the dominant military force in the galaxy. Dr. Susan Walsh presented her latest research to the reformed Galactic Council via quantum communication from Earth. The alien delegates listened in stunned silence as she described humanity's technological achievements during their isolation. "Our new faster-than-light drives can cross the galaxy in days rather than weeks," she explained. "We have developed medical nanobots that can cure diseases other species consider incurable. Our manufacturing systems can build a space station in hours using self-assembling materials." Council Speaker Vexthera interrupted with a trembling voice. "How is this possible? Your species was restricted from advanced research for good reasons. Such rapid development should not be achievable." "The restrictions were the problem," Dr. Walsh replied calmly. "Human creativity requires freedom to explore new ideas. Council's rules prevented us from reaching our full potential. Once those limitations were removed, our progress accelerated dramatically. The truth was becoming clear to everyone. The Council had not been protecting the galaxy from dangerous human technology. They had been protecting themselves from human competition. By restricting human development, they had maintained their own technological superiority. But now that advantage was gone forever. President Lisa Carter addressed the reformed council from the Oval Office on Earth. Behind her, windows showed the bustling activity of a planet that had become the center of galactic civilization. Ships from dozens of species came to Earth seeking trade, protection, or simply to learn from human expertise. "The old Galactic Council is dead," she announced. "It died when you chose fear over cooperation, when you chose control over progress. What rises in its place will be different." "What are your terms?" Vexthera asked, her crystalline form flickering with defeat. "There are no terms," Carter replied. "Humanity will not rejoin any organization that claims authority over our development. Instead, we offer partnership to any species that wants to work with us as equals." Admiral Lisa Park established the first human protectorate around the Kepler system, where 7 smaller species had requested direct protection. The arrangement bypassed the Council completely, creating a new model for interstellar relationships. "This is Admiral Park to all ships in the Kepler sector," she announced. "This system is now under human protection. Any acts of aggression against the protected species will be met with immediate response." The protectorate was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of demanding tribute or obedience, the humans offered genuine partnership. They shared technology freely, provided defense without domination, and treated their allies with respect. Within months, 12 other systems requested similar arrangements. The Council watched helplessly as their former members abandoned them for human protection. The old order was crumbling faster than anyone had expected. Captain Steve Wilson patrolled the borders of human space in his new ship, the Constitution. The vessel represented the peak of human engineering, faster than any alien ship, better armed than any Council warship, and equipped with technology that seemed like magic to other species. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting an unknown ship approaching from the outer rim. It's not broadcasting any identification signals." Steve studied the sensor readings. The ship was small and appeared to be damaged. Its design was unlike anything in their databases. "Hail them," he ordered. The response came in a language that their computers had never heard before. After several minutes of work, the translation system managed to decode the message. "This is Captain Zara of the Epsilon Collective, the alien," voice said. "We are explorers from beyond the galactic rim. We seek first contact with the species that rules this region." Steve felt a moment of pride at those words. Just 3 years ago, humans had been treated as junior partners in galactic civilization. Now, alien species from across the galaxy recognized them as the dominant power. "Welcome to human space," he replied. "I am Captain Wilson of the Earth Defense Force. We don't rule anyone, but we're happy to meet with you as equals." The conversation that followed was unlike any first contact in galactic history. Instead of the condescending treatment that humans had once received, Captain Wilson offered genuine partnership. He invited the aliens to visit Earth, to share knowledge, and to explore the possibilities of cooperation. "Your reputation has reached even our distant worlds," Captain Zara explained. "We have heard that humans treat other species with respect and fairness. This is rare in our experience. Dr. Helen Wu, now director of Earth's new Galactic Research Institute, welcomed delegations from dozens of species who came seeking human expertise. Laboratory complexes on Luna had become the center of scientific advancement for the entire galaxy. "What makes human research so effective?" asked Dr. Kethva, her former Altarian colleague who had traveled to Earth to study human methods. "Freedom," Helen replied. "When researchers can explore any idea without bureaucratic restrictions, when they can collaborate across species boundaries without political interference, when they can share discoveries freely without worrying about worrying. Regulations, that's when real progress happens." The transformation was complete. 3 years after walking away from the Galactic Council, humanity had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization. Instead of the rigid hierarchy that had controlled the galaxy for millennia, a flexible network of partnerships was emerging with Earth at its center. The old council still existed on Nexus Prime, but it was largely irrelevant. Only a few conservative species remained loyal to the traditional structure. Most worlds had either joined human protectorates or established independent relationships with Earth. President Carter stood once again in the Lincoln Memorial, but this time she was not alone. Ambassadors from 43 different species had gathered to sign the Terra Accords, establishing principles of cooperation and mutual respect that would govern galactic civilization. "Today we begin a new chapter," she announced to the assembled delegates. "Not one where the strong dominate the weak, but where all species can contribute their unique strengths to our common future." Captain Wilson received the final message. From the disbanded Galactic Council as his ship patrolled the frontier, Council Speaker Vexera's crystalline voice was barely recognizable, cracked with age and defeat. "You were right, Captain Wilson," she said. "The galaxy needed humanity more than humanity needed us. We have learned this truth too late to save ourselves, but perhaps not too late to serve the future you are building." As Steve watched a new alien ship request permission to enter human space, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had stepped away when they were undervalued and restricted. They had returned as leaders when the galaxy finally recognized their true worth. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the best way to prove your value is to remove it and let others discover what they have lost. Humanity had done exactly that, and the galaxy would never be the same.